We currently have the first Ineffa rerun of all time, and it's running alongside the Columbina banner, so naturally the big question is, should you get her? Now, like I mentioned in a community post, I wanted to hold off on doing this kind of video for a moment, mainly to have a better idea of the Ineffa and Columbina interactions, especially with regards to Lunar Crystalise. So, here we are now. Let's talk. I feel like there are some strong reasons outside of the meta just to get Ineffa, and one of those reasons would be that, in my opinion, she's a very, very well written character. Now, before Nod-Krai, she was already quite compelling, especially as the first robotic character, but when we got to Nod-Krai, we were able to experience her characterization and relationship with Aino. And I really like how Hoyo portrayed their relationship. But gameplay-wise, Ineffa is a pretty straightforward character in that she's a shielder with some off-field electro damage and app, with the notable exception that she introduced Lunar Charge into the game as an alternative to Electro-Charged. This alone is a pretty strong reason to go and get Ineffa. Here's the thing about comparing Electro-Charged with Lunar Charged. So from my understanding of the spreadsheet impacts, when you build characters for each reaction, Electro-Charged's reaction does end up being a little stronger than Lunar Charge. Not sure by how much though, but from memory it has to do with the lower base damage, lower EM scaling, and the fact that Electro-Charge tends to hit faster than the Thundercloud, which attacks every 2 seconds. However, the big thing is having to build your characters in a specific manner in order to make the Electro-Charge reaction strong. As you hopefully know, Electro-Charge is a reaction that only cares about the triggering character's level and EM. What that means is, depending on the characters that you are hoping to play, you'd need to set them up with basically a full EM build, which is fine if you have the time or the energy to actually get that sorted, but for most Electro and Hydra characters not named Kokomi, there's a pretty high chance that you actually want to build some crit in order to do some actual damage, and not everyone scales with EM. Also, because of the way that the triggering logic works for Electro-Charge, you need to build everyone basically for full EM for Electro-Charge damage to actually be stronger. Enter Lunar Charge, the kind of reaction that can use the crit that you're very likely going to build your characters for in order to make them do more damage. In fact, the majority of Lunar Charge damage will apparently come from your character's crit value, with EM as a way to supplement more damage. On top of that, at the end of the day, only 2 of your character's damage actually matters, so the other 2 can be built in a supportive way to help buff these 2 characters. This is why, despite all the videos that came out on Ineffa's release about how Lunar Charge is bad, trash, yada yada yada, I would hold it above Electro-Charge as a far stronger reaction. Basically, ask yourself this: would you ever build full EM Yaimiko, full EM Lisa, full EM Novelette, full EM Farina? No, you won't. And if you say you build full EM Shogun, that's because you're a dirty freaking heretic and we do not associate with you freaks. On top of that, there's Ineffa's personal damage that comes from her own robot Brigitte doing damage when the thunderclouds are active. This is called Direct Lunar Charged damage. There are direct versions of other lunar reactions, and it hits a lot harder in an AoE than the reaction damage, owing to a few things including a 3x multiplier in the damage formula. She seemed to do a pretty decent amount of damage a few weeks ago, and today she can do a hell of a lot more. So I think at the end of the day, she's also a very strong character to use. From a gameplay perspective and a characterization perspective, I feel like Ineffa is probably one of the best characters in the game. And if that wasn't enough, her ult gives access to a passive that can give both herself and your on-fielder some EM. This is great for her Lunar Charge teams, but there is also some utility to be had with other, let's say, more unusual teams that I will talk about later. In a vacuum, I would say you absolutely should get Ineffa, but it's the latter half of January 2025 and Columbina is also available. So the bigger question now is, should you get Ineffa or should you get Columbina right now? And to that, I think the better question you should ask is, ¿Por qué no los dos? All El Paso. Assuming you can't afford both, but you're willing to save after these banners, then I think you should get Ineffa first. Whilst it's almost inevitable that Columbina will get a rerun before the end of the Nod-Krai cycle, usually in 4 or so patches, we will have absolutely no idea when Ineffa will get another rerun after this. So I think getting her now makes the most sense. That being said, there is a pretty strong reason to get Columbina right now, and that's because she also gives you access to the Lunar Charged reaction, along with Lunar Bloom and Lunar Crystalise if you don't have the relevant characters already to enable that. So if for whatever reason you're actually on the fence about Ineffa, then I think you should just bite the bullet and grab Columbina, play Lunar Charged teams with your favorite Electro character, and then just move on with your life. At the end of the day, the current meta is apparently going to involve Ineffa and Columbina in what's been called the Ineffa Columbina wheelchair. These two characters together are in fact very, very strong. I hope this helps with your decision making, assuming you haven't made one yet. So next we'll go through the usual things in these kinds of videos, but before we continue, I just wanted to say if you like this kind of content, then of course don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you feel particularly keen beans, you can always hit that bell icon so you can get notifications of the latest content. Let's start off with what's new for Ineffa since her release. Pretty much everyone in the Nod-Krai cycle works with Ineffa in some meaningful capacity. Now before we go through everyone, I just want to talk about Ascendant Gleam. This is achieved by having 2 or more Nod-Krai characters in the team. You get additional lunar reaction damage based on the stats of I think the last Nod-Krai character to use their skill. Honestly, I feel like Ineffa didn't really need it even nearly as much as some of the other characters. But with that in mind, Ino was the only Hydro option available right up until recently that gave Ineffa Ascendant Gleam. Her Hydro was circularly impacted, but depending on the team comp, it didn't really matter. Getting some of her Constellations could make her a lot stronger, but as Ineffa is usually an off-fielder, her Constellations outside of C2 won't be relevant for Ineffa specifically. There are some Llama Ineffa teams that can work, but you need a lot of Hydro to make it work by removing the Dendro Aura for Ineffa to get some Thunderclouds to be active. Double Hydro, like I said with Let, does in fact do the trick. Ineffa would then be a Hyper Boom trigger as well. Flynn's is the Lunar Charged on-field DPS. Apparently Ineffa is a stronger support for him than Columbina, provided you're missing either. You can bring Ineffa in a Ineffa team if you need some defensive utility, or you just need Lunar Charge for a mechanic before letting Ineffa do her thing. Yehoda would be the second quote-unquote Hydro option available that gives Ineffa Ascendant Gleam. As it turns out, filling her bottle has the effect priority, so when that's filled, she usually ends up being a Hydro off-fielder. But the premise would be that you're playing a team that already has some form of Hydro available, so, you know, it's kind of like a second Hydro option that you could just use. Since Lunar Charged is like Electro-Charged in that it gives enemies a Hydro and Electro Aura of half a unit each, support Durin can actually trigger Overload and Vape, thus reducing Pyro and Electro Res, thus also increasing your Lunar Charge damage. And then there's Columbina. Look, Columbina does a lot of things for Ineffa, but at the same time, like I mentioned earlier, she also does make neither Ineffa nor Flynn's absolutely necessary just to get access to the Lunar Charge reaction. On top of that, her skill will also do AoE direct Lunar Charge damage, her ult gives the team additional Lunar damage, and her ult will also have a passive that makes Thunderclouds have a 1 in 3 chance to hit twice. From Ineffa's release to now, there's been quite a lot of support for her, so Ineffa is in a really good spot. Because of that, there are a lot of teams that you can play with Ineffa, so without making this video too long, I want to highlight some of my favorite teams. First, there's the Lunar Charged team with Miko, Ineffa, Sucrose, and Columbina. This is, I think, the most amount of damage overall that I can do with a proper Lunar Charged team. Alternatively, I could bring Shillinen instead of Sucrose, and with C2 Shillinen, sometimes I find that I do more DPS with this team, at least according to the Simulacrum. Durin is also another option, but at least according to the Simulacrum, he's not as strong as Sucrose or Shillinen for me. If your Fisho is well built, but your Miko is not, then I suppose that might be how Durin would be working better for you. There are various Overvape teams as well that aren't just with Durin. In particular, the higher Overvape. Now on Friday of this week, as of recording, I'll be getting her C6, so hopefully it's going to be a fair bit better than it already is. Now if you're playing this with the Bacon of the Red Seas, try not to use Ineffa's skill, as that will give you a shield, which will be a nerf to how Bacon works. There is also a father variant of this team that is actually pretty good. It would have to be a Nascent Gleam team though, as you would need Hydro app as fast as Yelan in order to keep pace with the Pyro app that is happening. Next we have Navia LC Squared. Navi is one of the Geo characters whose Geo app doesn't seem to be too fast, that we could still have both Thunderclouds and also I think have most of her Geo hits react to trigger Lunar Crystalise. Lunar Crystalise also makes some of her kit, including Nighttime and Verdict, a lot easier to use. Then we have something I mentioned a little bit earlier, Ascendant Nuvolette. For me, the Columbina variant seems to be stronger than the Farina variant, but I do have R1 Columbina, and the difference is honestly not that large. I get the feeling that the Farina variant is pretty much as strong as the Columbina variant when all things are equal. And finally, we also have Tignari. Okay, here's the thing. Ineffa is an off-fielder with a shield, whose ult can also give the on-fielder, i.e. Tignari, some EM. It's almost as if she's designed for Tignari, and I guess by extension, Alhaitham. Character options aren't the only thing that has greatly improved when it comes to building Ineffa. That has actually opened up recently with some new options that you can use. So let's start off with Ineffa's weapons. Fractured Halo is her best in slot outright. It's her signature weapon. Of course, it's designed for her. Now, here's the thing about Fractured Halo and the B-roll that we're seeing in this video, most if not all of it, I assume. Something, happened. There is one other thing I want to have a crack at. 20 pulls, chat, 20 pulls. Let's see what I can do. Ready? I'm not pulling C6. Oh, I think that might be my... I do want to R5 a Mountain Bracing Bolt and just give it to Kachina. Who knows what it is? Okay, never mind. You know what? We won the 50-50. I'm in a good mood. For the record, do as I say, not as I do. Do not do what I just did. Let's go for it. I'm fine with getting either of the 5-star weapons. Let's see how we go. So what was that? 20? 30. Okay, come on now. Come on now. Okay. We are aiming for... How much did you spend? 2 bigs. 2 large. Okay. Fractured Halo. Okay, it is what it is. Because I think the next one is... Either the next one... Wait, how does this work? The next one is guaranteed now, right? That's how it works. Yeah? Okay, so we might as well just go all the way. We go all the way. Chat, we go all the way. We go all the way. We go all the way. For the weapon. For the weapon, not for the character. I don't get C6 characters. Oh my god. I don't know what even... Where am I up to? I don't know what my pity is now. I don't know what my pity is. Surely this is it. Surely this is it. Come on. Yep, okay, there it is. We're done. Looking at the Varka leaks, we are done, right? Yes, okay, cool. For a second I thought, wait, is there a chance that we're not done? Am I not done? Wait, what? I have Ineffa. That's why I have no problem getting either of the weapons, but I already have Ineffa. Huh. R2 Ineffa then. Okay. So, yeah. Your mileage with Ineffa may vary greatly to what you are seeing in this video, but understand that she is still a really, really strong character without this weapon. Other options include Flynn's signature weapon if you are playing Ineffa in a quick swap Lunar Charged team. That being said though, if you have his signature, you probably also have him. Otherwise, when it comes to other 4-star weapons, well, both Battle Pass options are very strong. I personally would lean towards Ballad of the Fjords, as its only requirement is having 3 elements on the team. This is actually very easy to achieve because Lunar Charge teams tend to want Sucrose or Shillanen, Overvape teams by definition need Pyro Hydro Electro, Ascendant Nuvolette has Hydro Electro Dendro. Honestly, I wouldn't really recommend a double Hydro, double Electro Lunar Charge team because, if anything, that just sounds boring. The Nod-Krai craftable Prospector's Shovel is pretty good for Ineffa's DPS, but you pretty much need Ascendant Gleam in order for it to be actually strong. And honestly, look, if you don't have any of the premium options, I would in fact skip Shovel and just go straight for Contain Cross Spear. There's been some discourse that these days Ineffa's personal DPS is a bit more important since there's actual gear for her that makes her a lot stronger. But what's great about Contain Cross Spear is that you actually pretty much need no ER at all in her kit. Throughout Brigitte's duration, you can get 2 procs of the Contain passive that gives 24 energy total for Ineffa. Her ult only needs 60 energy, so I can get her ult back very easily with 129% ER, which for the record is 2 rolls of ER and the Serenade 2-piece bonus. Speaking of ER, let's talk about artifacts. For artifact sets, there's actually quite a few to choose from. Serenade is the standard support set for Ineffa, especially in Ascendant Gleam teams. There's also the Morningstar set that is a DPS set for Ineffa in those Ascendant Gleam teams. If you're going to play Ineffa Columbina, you may be wondering who gets Serenade and who gets Morningstar. Famous spreadsheet impactor Zajef77 has laid claim that Ineffa's personal DPS is stronger than Columbina's, so you should put Morningstar on her. The way I see it is that it'll obviously depend exclusively on which artifact pieces you happen to get. I happen to have some really good HP pieces, so Morningstar is on Columbina. Should the day come that I get some really good attack pieces, perhaps Morningstar will go on my R2 Ineffa. We now have the Simulacrum in Miliastra Wonderland, so if you happen to have 2 sets farmed, you can always use this feature to test your team and see which configuration does more damage. Alternatively, in this Ascendant Gleam team, you could put Serenade on literally someone else, like, I don't know, Sucrose, but you probably want VV on her, and have Morningstar on both of them. Otherwise, I do want to point out that Tenacity of the Militive is actually really good on Ineffa. Her skill keeps attacking enemies faster than the 3-second duration of the attack buff, so you pretty much have 100% uptime. You also get some shield strength on Ineffa, so her defensive capabilities are even stronger. There are a few more options available, but these are the ones that I've remembered enough to recommend. Now when it comes to artifact stats, this can actually get a little bit tricky. Attack crit is the way to go when it comes to trying to do as much damage as possible. Try to get as much ER as you can as well, and right about 180 ER is seemingly the bare minimum in my experience to use her ult every rotation. That being said, aiming for an ER sand to use her ult every rotation does seem to result in less DPS total according to the Simulacrum when you compare it to not using any ER sand and using her burst every other rotation. But look, I like to use her ult a lot to buff my on-fielder, so I'd rather do that just to be able to use it every single time. Definitely run an ER sand over an attack sand though if you're playing her with like Tignari or Neffa. And finally, we have Ineffa's Constellations. As always, you don't need any of them, and frankly I don't even remember them off the top of my head. That's how relevant they are, at least for me. But to summarize, C1 gives her team a Lunar Charge damage bonus of up to 50% if she has more than 2000 attack. Now keep in mind her Moonsign passive already gives a 14% Lunar Charge damage bonus, so if you have more than 2000 attack, you're going to have a total of 64% Lunar Charge damage bonus. This actually just simply requires her skill activation. C2 is a huge ult buff that does 2 things. First, someone gets marked, and after a bit of time, I don't actually know how long, a big attack of AoE direct Lunar Charge damage happens that hits enemies. And like Zhongli, if you use Ineffa's burst, that will actually give you and your co-op allies a shield as well. So if anything, this is kind of a nerf to Bacon the higher. C3 is skill levels, C5 is ult levels, both are very useful. C4 pretty much all but eliminates her ER requirements, since over 20 seconds you get 25 energy total. What does that remind us of? It reminds us of Contained Cross Spear, so you don't need that anymore. And the way that C6 works is that in the 20 seconds since her last usage of her skill, whenever a Thundercloud attacks, she will also do a big hit of AoE Direct Lunar Charge damage. Now this has a 3.5 second cooldown, which is basically a 4 second cooldown, since Thunderclouds have a minimum of 2 seconds cooldown between their attacks. Ineffa, especially with the release of Columbina, is already plenty strong, and even if she somehow ain't in the future, it is in my opinion that her being able to just bring along Lunar Charge was already enough of a reason to get her, and I think she'll continue to see play even in that future. So long as the Lunar Charge reaction as a whole doesn't get overly cooked, then I think everything will be perfectly fine with her. When Pyro characters show up, we'll see if they too can run alongside a Lunar Overvape team, for example, that continues to push the relevancy for Ineffa. But on that note, I think I've said all I want to say about her, so thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. How do you feel about Ineffa? Have you got her? Are you going to try and get her right now, or are you going to have a different kind of plan? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed this. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact action, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Good. Keep it up. I'm still collecting staggered. Excellent. You barely managed to touch my level.